Thank you. Next up, resolution 2014 will appropriate title.
Resolution 26, 2014, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving certain infrastructure improvements for properties located on Sunset Drive, 40th Terrace North, and Brenner Lane pursuant to the City Neighborhood Improvement Assessment Program, NIAP, in adoption of the associated preliminary special assessment providing an effective date for the purposes.
Open the public hearing, ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening, Council. Todd Ingles, City Engineer. Tonight we're presenting Resolution 26, 2014, which is a consideration of City Council to construct certain improvements along Sunset Drive, 40th Terrace and Brenner Lane pursuant to the city's Neighborhood Improvement Assessment Program and adopting the special assessment of the same. As you were aware, over the past couple of years, we've been going through a process with Sunset Drive and 40th Terrace looking to provide water, sewer, and roadway improvements. We developed a neighborhood improvement assessment program, and these are the steps we followed through that program. Tonight, we're having a public hearing to make the final determination of what's going to happen with the program. On March 24th, we held a public informational meeting. Some highlights from that meeting were 16 parcel owners were represented at that meeting. There were several staff members on hand. We discussed the actual construction process. Seacoast Utilities was available to discuss the services they would provide. We discussed the impact to the property during the assessment. We discussed the options that were going to be presented to you tonight and the associated costs with those options. We did receive some more votes during that meeting as well. So we received 5 additional votes. We're up to 72% of the residents, or actually the property owners, responding. As those layouts, 16 want all improvements, 17 would like to see water only, 11 would like to see no improvements, and we're still missing 17 responses from the property owners. The option for you today would be to do no improvements, would be to install water only. With a water only option, the city would not own a roadway. The city would install the water through a permit with the county. We would restore their roads to their requirements, and then we would turn the roads back over to the county, and water would be provided through Seacoast Utilities. The third option would be a water roadway option. That's where the city would take ownership of the roadways. We put the water in, we would rebuild the roadways entirely to the city's standards. We would take ownership, and that would go into our maintenance program. And the fourth option would be water, sewer, and roadway options. We would take over ownership of the roadway there as well, provide all water, sewer improvements, and Seacoast would take over those utilities. That would include a lift station to be installed along 40th Terrace, as well as enforcement associated with that. The cost obviously with the do nothing option would be the city would not recoup the money we've already spent to date, which is currently about $110,000 through soft costs of engineering, survey costs, and other costs we've incurred. The water only option, that cost is about $1 million, and that would affect 60 parcel owners along this area. It would be about $16,000 per year. All of these options are assumed 20% or 20 years at 5% interest would be assessed on the tax rate. The water only option would be about $1,300 a year per parcel. Each parcel roughly has a duplex on it, so it would require 2 water services and 1 water meter. If they want additional services, if they have a triplex or with more units, that connection fees would cost more money. The connection fees have been rolled into the assessment. So the original costs that went out in the connection fees weren't in the assessment as we did the initial one. Some of the costs appear to go up because of the connection fees are in the 20-year assessment. That way the property owner does not have a bigger cost out of pocket as they go to connect. The only cost they would have left would be to disconnect their well and connect to the water, or disconnect their septic system and connect to the sewer system if that's installed. Looking at the water roadway option, that's about $1.5 million, or about $25,000 for 61 affected parcels, about $2,000 a year, or roughly about $170 a month. We point out the monthly fee because most of them are duplexes, and if they do get water in the roadway, they may be able to obtain the rents in that area, so that would be the roughly fee for that. We look at the water, sewer, and roadway option. That's about $2.6 million total cost, or about $43,000 per parcel. Over 20 years, it's about $3,500 per parcel per year, or just under $300 per parcel per year. that's how the cost breakdown and improvements break down. What we're asking council to do tonight is make a recommendation or determination of what improvements will be done. And we'll have to go back and start the assessment. There's more legal process we would have to go and make the determination and start construction as soon as possible. If it's water only, there's one more permit we would have to get, and that would be the county permit. If it's water in the roadway and sewer, we would just have to get ownership of the roadway. So construction would be as soon as those are achieved.
Thank you. Any questions of staff right now? No? Okay. Before we get into the public comment cards, I'd just like to thank George Webb, who's here from Palm Beach County. We're having discussions with the roads and financing and some other things. I appreciate you coming out tonight and waiting 2.5 hours, as well as all the residents, to get to this agenda item. But thank you for your patience, and now we'll have some serious discussion. Tracy Wright wants to defer her time to Mr. Easton. And Kevin, I'll give you 5 minutes. Is that enough? Okay. Kevin Easton, you're up. And Don, you're on deck, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kevin Easton. I live at 8511 40th Terrace North. And I started this project a long time ago here, back when we were annexed, a few years after we were annexed in 2002. I was looking to improve our neighborhood with safety by getting the roads fixed and bringing water into the area. Since that time, it's just escalated. It's become a mess. But I'm here tonight because I'm very concerned about the costs of all of this now. Back on October 4, 2012, when we received the first cost estimate, it was right around $8,000. At the end of that month, when we received the formal letter, it went up. Actually, the first one was $5,000, it went up to $9,000, so it almost doubled within a month. Now, we're looking at, I think it was $26,108 just for the water. So the cost of it just astronomical. We're looking for, some kind of help to get this funded correctly. We're looking for ways to do this. And I know that the county is willing to give $50,000 to help if you guys can take the roads. But we're still a long way from trying to get this figured out, because I don't know how that happened, but we weren't, the roads were not annexed at the time that we were annexed. In this 62-53 ordinance, it says that the roads must meet city code before they're annexed. I don't know why this wasn't talked about at the annexation. And so now we're really stuck, and we've got a mess down there, and all we really want is water, as far as I mean. I'd love to have the roads paved, and I'm in for whatever you guys are going to go for, but we really need to hold the cost down somehow. We were talking about the gas taxes and seeing if maybe the city could help us with something like that. I'm looking for maybe some other kind of help. Could be some of the communications tax. I mean, they put the utilities on our property and on our easement. Maybe they could help. Possibly, some businesses might be able to help fund our neighborhood. I know Gordon Downer's been there forever, and he hasn't helped us really in that much. We still have traffic jams up there, and I know it's, like I say, it's just a mess. I don't know, how we can fix this, but I certainly think that, we need to, all to come together and try and bring these costs down, because, $169 a month for each lot to bring in the water and the roads is an awful lot of money. A lot of these owners aren't going to be able to recoup it. A lot of them don't even have that kind of money. That's why they didn't even bother to apply. But we all want to do the best we can for our neighborhood, and I think that there was some problems in the beginning with this annexation. I don't think things were fully discussed and fully thought out before this happened. And therefore, I'm just asking that everybody kind of get together. Maybe the county could pitch in a little bit more. Maybe they have a. I remember Mr. Ferris put out the funding report where he asked the federal government for funds, and he asked for, there was an annexation, county annexation project fund. There was a bunch of different funding, but we were turned down on all of them. Maybe we could hopefully we can possibly go back and look at that and lower these costs. I'm just looking for lower costs, but I'll go on whatever you guys want to go along with. I want to see my neighborhood improve. I just think that the costs, when I first started this, I thought maybe it would cost us $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the water, and maybe $10,000 for roads at the most. But our city annexed this area. They didn't think about the roads. And it's been 12 years, and it's really a shame that nobody's done anything in 12 years. I really haven't seen the city jump out and do anything. I started this project in 2005 trying to get help. Finally, we're starting to pick up some steam in 2011, 2012, but you know, I don't want to put this burden on 17 people that did not, you know, vote. I mean, you're putting a lot of money on their, you know, on top of their property taxes, and it's, you know, it's something to consider. If we can lower this, I would appreciate it. That's all I have to say. Thank you for all your help. Congratulations to the for everyone who was elected. Thanks again.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, Don. Name and address, please.
Yes. My name is Don Castellan. I own 2 duplexes, one at 8485 Sunset Drive, and another at 8780 40th Terrace North. I own the duplex that we wanted to put the big sewage pump at. I'm here to say that what I really just want is city water and pavement. I own the duplex that was smashed by a car when a drug addict was flying down the dirt road and smashed in the front of my duplex. Fortunately, my tenant was in a different room when the car hit, and she wasn't injured very bad, but she did have to climb out the window, got all cut up doing that. I've been paying taxes on these 2 duplexes since 2003 when I bought them. And I've had absolutely no help from the city in any way, shape, or form of fixing up the neighborhood in any way for those, it's been 11 years. So I feel as though after the thousands of dollars I've spent in taxes, we should get some kind of help back from the city on the cost of this. But I definitely just want the city water and the pavement. We can get by with septic tanks and drain fields. I just had one done at one of my duplexes. It was $4,000. And that's going to carry me for a good 20 years with today's codes on that septic system. So for the fortune it would cost to do the septic, I think we could avoid the over expenditure of that and just give people what they want and start with the city water and the pavement. Because I don't think that a mile from here in the best city in this county, people should have to live on a dirt road and drink well water. So I'm with Kevin in respect that I think we need some kind of help from anybody because our tax dollars have been going all over here. You've talked about Abacoa, you've talked about these wonderful roads on Donald Ross. It seems like all the attention is up in that area. We just need some attention down here. And you can be the fantastic board to finally end this problem that's been lingering forever and just have no dirt roads in your city and no well water in your city. We can live up like the people that live on the other side of the highway. So I'm just asking for you to please approve the city water and the pavement on that dirt road, and we can get some nice tenants in there, and the police won't have to go over there 900 times in a year. I've called them countless times. Every Friday afternoon, it's a party zone. And if we can just get some city water, paved road, people will start to fix their places up, and you'll see a big turnaround. It'll be well worth your efforts. And thank you for even letting the subject get this far. I just hope we can drive a nail in this and end this subject tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, very, very much. Thank you. It's very well. Kenneth, trespass?
Trespass.
Trespass. Oh, that's right. What's up? Is there a vowel on the end?
What?
Is there a vowel on the end?
Yeah.
Your name, that's horrible handwriting. Come on. Come on. Kenneth, come on, man. Come on, my brother.
Need to
Yeah.
talk to, but I gotta get in touch.
Name and address,
My
sir.
name is Ken Trapasso. I'm from 154th Court, Palm Beach Gardens. I own property on Sunset, and we've been over this a few times. We've all talked about it. We've been pushing for the water, basically. The water, sewer, and roads, the bill is just ridiculous. You can't even keep a tenant in a place like that. You'd have to sell your properties. As far as the roads go, though, I did want to discuss that a little bit. For some reason, 40th Terrace feels that Sunset residents should be paying for their payment. I think that should be separated. I live in the country estates. We just paid our road, and the residents on that street voted to pave it, we're paying for that. We're not making our other neighbors pay for our work. So, as far as I'm concerned, Sunset's paved. I think it'd be left alone. The water issue, what kind of bothers me, and I just listened to the numbers tonight, was, if I'm correct, 16 people voted no and for anything but just water, and 11 people voted for nothing whatsoever. If you look at those numbers, put them together, if I'm correct, it's 28 to 17 was the vote no, period. And democracy says the vote goes that way. Now, I want water, but the vote from the majority of the residents is, hey, can't. I want the relief, but I also live by the American way. And that's why the flag's behind you. Most of the residents voted no. We have an issue here that I can't tell you to go forward on this. I do want water. I think most of the residents, well, they just said it by the numbers. Not that most of the residents want water either. I love the same time. So basically, I don't know if you should take, pardon?
Hold on, Ken, let me just correct you. Up on this chart, stop the clock, please, Pat. We have 17 who want water only.
Water only.
We want 16 who want everything, so that's 33.
Three, but
To 11, no
and
votes.
11 people, not no votes, I heard 11 didn't want anything.
That's the no vote, so it's 33 to 11.
Oh, 11,
17 non-responsive.
not, and 17 non-responsive, so we get 11 no votes for
Right.
nothing.
Nothing.
And how many for just water?
33 for just water.
If you add those, if you add those together,
We,
okay, I got the math wrong.
that's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's why I need a
You
calculator too, I understand.
You heard, see my
I
writing.
understand.
So anyways, I'm looking at those two issues, basically is the roads, I don't see why I should be paying for 40 Terrace, since Sunset's fine. And I do think the bill's a little bit higher than the water bill, like everybody else is saying. Since the Honda Classic brings in such great tax dollars that we put signs up home for the Honda Classic, I think we should take some of that tax dollars and help relieve on that street too. What's the no? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ken, appreciate it. Hardy?
Yep.
Thank you. Name and address, sir.
My name's Hardy Gaines, 7388 165th Street North. I own two properties, and I don't know what the name of the development is, but one's on Sunset, one's on 40th Terrace. One thing I'd like to say is roads and water do not make a neighborhood or do not bring in better tenants, because you can look at Riviera Beach, you can look at areas in Miami that are paved, have water, have gas, and they're not any better than what we have right now. Just wanted to start with that. For $1,000 a month investment on the property owners, we could probably make or have a better water system on our own properties, be responsible for it, and upgrading our own, and we can have the same water that Seacoast is going to provide, but it would not be reclaimed and treated water. If we were in a financial demise now, and the increasing of taxes and utility bills is a hardship on most landowners and tenants, that they're going to have to pay an additional water fee. We ask for help and appreciate all the effort that you have put in to help remedy this water problem. However, I would ask you to carefully consider the impact that this will have on residents who, as we all know, are already strained financially. Thanks in advance for your careful consideration. The other thing is that all of this is very beneficial to the utilities company and construction company, but does not warrant the fees being asked for the people in this neighborhood. And this does not make financial sense. I originally wanted water. I'm at the point where I don't want water, so two of those folks that wanted water aren't the no vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against this? Sir? Just name and address for the record and then fill out a card with the clerk, please.
My name is John Earhart. I live at 9052 East Highland Pines Drive in unincorporated Palm Beach Gardens. I own a triplex on Sunset Drive. I've owned this property for 20 plus years. I've had other rental properties too. And I can tell you, when people call on that phone and they ask if it's well water there or not. It makes a big difference. The quality of tenants and people that you get there that want to rent is significantly different. You wouldn't have the problems on that street if I could get some quality tenants there. So, I know I'm kind of babbling a little bit. I didn't plan to speak. What I want to say is I'm definitely for getting water on that street and improving the roads. I would deeply appreciate it if the council would do that for us. Thank you much.
Thank you, John. Could you see the clerk, please, over here? You still have a card, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against this item? Sir, please come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Howard Gorman, 708 Lighthouse Drive, Northbound Beach. I own a duplex on 40th Terrace. And there's one thing when the county does one of these special assessments for their zoning for the area, the districts that they do make improvements for. County Commissioner Al Valshay, okay, said the MSTU petition should be counted the same way as votes in an election, which are determined by a majority of votes cast, not by the entire electorate. Now, I believe what this is saying is that those 17 people that did not cast their vote, they gave up their right to vote. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well,
Which would
that's
go in...
That's your opinion, yeah, okay.
Which, and this is the way the county does it,
Right.
okay? And I would think that the city would like to do the same thing that the county has already set the precedent to do. And so, and I think the majority of the people, in this case, said that they would like to have the paved streets and water. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
So, I've got a copy of that. That was in the post if anybody wants to have it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Please give that to the clerk, we'll put it in the
Thank you
record.
very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right.
Mayor, before we go further, I do have a couple of questions of staff.
Okay. I didn't close, I just knocked, but go ahead. Questions, staff?
Well, actually, the mayor,
I'm sorry. We'll leave it open. In
Todd,
case somebody else wants to speak, I want.
do we know what the general depth of the drinking water wells are out there?
We don't have it.
No, they're probably 60 feet, probably, yes. And do they have to get, because those are small lots, they have to get a variance from the health department on the septic tank well?
Every time they don't meet the clearance.
And they don't there. Okay. And I guess my final question is anybody testing those wells for nutrients and bacteria, the water wells?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a permit on mine. Okay, you do have permits inspected by the health department.
If you,
My only point is, that's fine if you want to let him say something, but they can't pick it up on the minutes. So you can't allow somebody in the back of the room to speak. Come up, say their name.
Right.
We do have a few wells throughout the city, drinking wells, which we do have to test for, but we're a public entity, so we have to understand the framework.
The Seacoast has a community well permit, so they have to test that, I think, monthly. Not bi-weekly.
Okay. Okay. Don, can you come up here and please tell us the testing process, just for the record? Thank you.
Yes, I had a tenant once who wanted to bathe their baby, and they were afraid the well water was too dangerous to bathe their child in, so they called the health department to come and inspect my well. It didn't pass. It was filthy, dirty water, as you can see by the sludge in the tub constantly. So I had to get a whole new system for my tenants, and I've been battling with having halfway decent water with the health department ever since I had it put in. And we just can't get decent water out of the ground there. It is unsafe. It's like the wells are too close to the septic systems, and it's a health hazard to begin with. We do need the city water. We can get rid of those unsafe wells. That's the bottom line.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak? All right, now I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back up for additional discussion.
I have a few more questions.
Okay,
No
let's hear them
more
all.
questions than answers, but a couple of things is, along with my comments. If we were to just choose water, we would have to rip up the roads to put in the water, correct?
Yes.
And then obviously the county would still have to maintain the roads, if that would be the option that was selected, correct?
Yes, if that option was selected, we would have to overlay that entire road.
And then my question comes then to the county, or as opposed to the county, is would they even allow us to put in the roads, and then we obviously have to fix them after we install the water, and we would have to fix them to a certain spec, both the dirt and the paved road, nonetheless, to be accepted by the county, because they would then have the obligation to maintain it, correct? Yes, so George in the back is saying yes. So I guess, nodding his head yes. I guess then the other question is, how, we said $50,000, and my other question is, how did that number come about for the $50,000? That was my one other question. And then, as far as a comment, somebody made a comment in regards to a grant. We would not be able to utilize a grant after this occurs. If you make a decision to do whichever, water, sewer, pavement, or none of the above, or one of the above, they would not have the opportunity to get a grant, or would they?
No, because they would be able to
They would be obligated. Could they get a grant after the fact, and then it would?
We did apply for a grant, I think in 2008, for this particular area, included Sunset and Van, and we did not apply for a grant.
Okay.
Would you like Mr. Webb to come up and answer your question?
I would like to know how that number was
George, thank you for coming.
derived.
To the record, George Webb, County Engineer. The number was based on historical numbers. I went back and asked my staff how much we've been spending in the last 10 years. And it works out to about $4,000 a year for the grading on the unpaved road, and about $1,000 a year for something.
So this is for the maintenance part.
Well, yeah, so my projection was over the next 10 years, we'll continue to spend at that level, and in an effort to try and call it sweeten the pot or whatever, to get some input on this, because if you guys take the roads, the county no longer has any financial obligation. So we're just trying, exactly, so we're just trying to say, you know, it seems somewhat fair to offer this kind. If you just do water, as Mr. Engel said, that we would say, it wouldn't be you, because everybody needs to understand the Seacoast doing the work. Seacoast would apply for the permit, we give them the permit requirements, they tear everything up, and particularly for Sunset, we make them put back and resurface. And I think we all agree it's probably just going to be the entire, it's not going to be patches, it'll be the entire road.
It would have to be because of the whole line.
Correct.
Has to be.
But again, with that, it'll just come back, it'll be the same width, no drainage, no sidewalks, no nothing. So it's just a better, nicer surface with the pipes underneath for the water. So, and as far as Sunset, we make them put it in compacted or whatever, and it's going to be a shallow road.
And you're saying that this was for 10 years?
That was what I estimated, and that's what I suggested in talking to my administration as far as could I make this offer or whatever. They said they supported that, but we'd still have to get approval from the Boyd County Commission. I think we would. So.
Once you have that number, whatever the number is, it has to go before the county commission for a final approval.
Yes.
To do that. So then the next question would be, when we came up with the number, we came up with the number based on, well, all these numbers that you have in this presentation, was based on a full set of construction drawings, not preliminary, or something that's ready to go to Seacoast and built
Seacoast,
or installed.
it is permitted through Seacoast as well as the health department for all the improvements.
Right. So the number is a true number based on the final construction drawings. And we received that from one pre-qualified Seacoast contractor,
Yes.
correct?
Seacoast publicly bid a contractor, and we have Seacoast's contractor price that out.
So no matter what we choose to do today, there is an opportunity then, because we have to go before the county commissioner, county commission nonetheless. We still have legalities that need to occur, for example, maybe road agreements, because when the county gives us, or let's say we assume to take on the roads, the maintenance for the roads in perpetuity, there would have to be some legal mechanism to make that happen.
I'll look at your attorney, but we've got resolutions ready to go, so.
Okay. So there is something that needs to
I
happen,
mean,
right?
it's not complicated when we've done these exchanges in the past, it's just like,
And then that.
we offer it, you guys say we accept it, it's done.
Right, and that to go before the county commission as well at the same time.
Yep.
Parallel to this process of moving forward in some manner, we could ask maybe 2 more pre-qualified Seacoast contractors for a number to make sure that the residents have the best number possible for this drawing, or in a parallel process, so we're not wasting time, we could also just go out for bid, because Seacoast is the inspector for this project and would have to accept it with whatever contractor. Obviously, a pre-qualified Seacoast contractor would probably be the fastest, because they know what they're doing as far as Seacoast requirements, correct?
Yes, that is an option. Go out on the street, you could get a higher price, but the vendor that may not be
But we
best
still have a price.
suited to that neighborhood.
Well,
But you could get
just
something
for
that's.
clarification, Seacoast went through the bidding process when they got the contractor they have, so it has been publicly bidded. In addition to that, if we go back out in the street, we can't put that contractor, his price is on the table, so if he's going to be a participant, he's going to have, if he wants to be a participant, he will have to compete with whoever else that would be going back on there. And we go out to bid, we have to develop specifications, go through the bidding process, you're delaying the project for months and months, probably 4 to 6 months.
Which we're gonna have to go through 2 months just to possibly.
I
My
don't
question
think
is
so.
though, did this, when you said it went out to bid, did it go out to bid to several contractors, or?
They go out for public bid, and everyone has an opportunity to bid on Seacoast, and Seacoast goes through their selection process, and they have their contractor, and this is the one they use,
The contractor is the one that was selected through a public bid.
through the public bid process.
But this set of drawings was not out to bid through several contractors. It was out to bid for one contractor.
For their unit prices, yes.
Their unit
Is
price.
that correct? Todd? So
For their
it's just basically a piggyback contract if this goes forward. But I just want you to understand that we go back out to bid through our process. It could be 4 to 6 months depending on what happens before we get this thing done and ready.
I'm just wanting to make sure we have the best price possible, because I'm concerned, I want to make sure for the future that this dollar amount that's.
But didn't Seacoast bid out, when they did the bids for these unit pricing, they put out a public bid?
Yes.
Didn't different people bid on it?
Yes.
And they awarded, no, on their units, on their unit prices. Not on this particular drawing, it's on their unit prices, so that's how they do it.
You want to explain how
To me,
the cost?
to me, I'd be concerned if you went out to bid just on this particular item, being it's so small, you might get higher, you're probably gonna get higher prices.
Why couldn't we just go with the one contractor then?
Well, that's what we're doing with Seacoast.
But I'm saying that this way we know for sure. But I'm saying doing a parallel process, so we're not wasting time.
You can't, you got, then you're gonna have to rebid it. And if you're gonna have to rebid it, you're gonna have to award it to the low bidder, whoever that process is. Now that means you're opening up, okay, the thing, okay? By the time you do the specs and plans, and then you gotta review the bidder, it's not even our thing. I mean, I guess, I don't understand why you don't think Seacoast has the lowest bid when they bid out, I'm just saying, they bid out. Why do we piggyback, you understand why they piggyback bids? We always piggyback bids because they're large bids, so people are more competitive when they're doing a bid on, let's say, $1 million than they are when they're doing a bid on 100,000. That's why we buy police cars from the state bid and all of those particular things. Now, in this particular case, is I imagine, and I don't know for sure, but Seacoast goes out and bids, okay, for their projects, and they award the low bidder, and then they use that low bidder to do all the projects. Am I correct?
So they're bidding, so that low bid is for the water installation, possibly the sewer installation. What about the roads? Was that,
Yeah,
is that, they do that as well?
There's quantities in there, but it's cost plus 10%, so whatever percentage is. You'll hire the subcontractor 10%, just like any other bidder would have done.
And I'm having this discussion because I want to make sure that we have the lowest price possible for the residents. That's why I'm having this discussion.
That's why I'm
Not to argue, but
no.
make sure.
What I'm trying to say to you is that I fully agree with you, but I believe if you put this one job out to bid, you probably come back with higher prices because it's such a small job.
And then we got to roll in the cost of doing the bid package.
Right.
So that's probably going to be
Not to mention-
another $100,000.
Unless it's.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, while we discuss what we want to do with this, I have absolutely no desire to repeat this. Why don't we discuss what, first off, I think option 1 and option 4 should be eliminated right away, because the residents don't want either option 1 or option 4. So I think we need to talk about, we're going to do the water. We have to do the water because there's a health issue there. And those were my questions. Those were my questions to Todd, and then John came up and confirmed that there's a water problem out there. So the question, I think, is do we want to do the road, and to your point, Marcy, you're going to rip up the road anyway, we might as well fix the road and do it right and take it into the city. And I want to do option 3. I think that's the best option.
Yeah, I want to do option 3 too, but I'd like to see if somehow, George, you said 10 years. I mean, you're going to be, I know you're in a way. But remember something, it's not going to be $5,000 every year for 10 years. By the time you get to year 10, it's going to be $6,000 to $7,000. And again, I know you can't. I mean, I would just like to see if we can get more help from the county on this. And I don't have a problem with using some of the city funds to help to a certain point. Not the whole thing, because the whole thing, I imagine, is a big number. But, I don't have a problem with taking, because again, we've had this project in our city for, I forget how many years, or whatever it is, and every so many years, we have to be redoing the roads and so forth. So I don't have a problem, but unfortunately, it's not going to be the whole thing. I mean, because again, we have to be responsible to our other residents, but because we can't be paying for everybody's roads, because that's not the way it works. But I wouldn't have a problem if we paid a portion of it, because I think it's money well spent, because the minute they start upgrading their tenant base and their street, their tax base goes up also, and then we receive more dollars in tax revenues because their taxes are going to go up because they have more value in the properties. So I don't have a problem with doing a certain number. I just don't know what all those numbers are. So what I'd like to see happen is we agree to do the water and the roads and see what number we can come up with, and then go back to the residents and say, look, this is what it's going to cost you. Come up with a number and say, well, we're done with this and that and something.
Yeah, Joe, I do want you to put into consideration that once this is brought into the city and it's brought up to our specifications, it will become part of our road maintenance program. And then they will not have to pay any further dollars to maintain that.
Exactly. And all I'm saying, if they've been in the city for 12 years, we would have had some cost, because again, every so many years we have to redo the road. Now, obviously, we may have not had to do it, but they would have brought them up to standard in the beginning. But all I'm saying is, there's going to be, when they would have had to be repaid, it would have cost. All I'm trying to do is just trying to help to get this thing.
But what do we need to, I'm sorry, Rick. What do you think we need to do tonight? Probably a question to Todd. Do we just need to do 3 and then,
Hold on, Eric and I haven't spoken.
Yeah, I also want to concur with Joe, that I think that, and with all due respect, I want to ask the county, because it is not just for 10 years, it's in perpetuity that we're going to be taking on the responsibility for the road. So I would like to do a formal request to the county, if the council would entertain that idea, to ask for some additional income for that. And also agree with David in regards to water and roads, because they're going to be ripped up also, but don't want to further burden the residents in any more way that they, it's tough for sewer, it's just too much. But in addition to that, I went to the workshop, I talked to many residents. It was very well attended. We got a lot of feedback from residents there. And a lot of people said that they, right now, have a water filter for their units, and that they're spending close to $100 a month because of the filter, the salt, and whatever else that they have to do for that filter. So hopefully this will offset that cost as well.
Okay, thanks.
I think this is a health issue, it really is, and I think we need to fix it, and we've spent a lot of time and money on this project, and I particularly think option 3 is the right way to go. I would support your efforts to ask the county for a little bit more money, like double the amount of money.
Triple.
No pressure. Because frankly, you're right, it is in perpetuity. It's not just 10 years. We're looking, governments look beyond 10 years. As far as I'm concerned, I know we do, and the county does, and all governments do. So I think asking for the county is for more participation here is the right thing to do. Joe, while I agree with the idea of possibly taking some of our taxpayers' money into consideration to kick this project down the road, no pun intended. My only concern is that there will be other people asking us for help too, and I don't want to set a precedent. But if there's a way of doing it, I mean,
Yeah, that's why all I was saying was to put in what we would have had, we would have had to spend money then to maintain the roads and so forth. So whatever that number was, we go back 12 years or whatever, look at it, and just come up with a number, whatever we can do to help. I'm not saying we pay $300,000 or $200,000, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying we just try and help. No, because I agree with you, we can't be, it's not really our responsibility, it's not fair to the other taxpayers. But it does have a benefit for the taxpayers, because we will be realizing additional revenue.
Correct. I mean, eventually that community, as I'm hearing from some of the people who own property there, better tenants will bring more rent, and maybe, and of course the values of the property will go up, and taxes go up commensurate with that. So I want to be fair about this and try and improve your neighborhood, definitely. So whatever we can do, use a formula to justify it. That's my concern. We have to justify it for the other aspects.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement with option 3. I'd like to thank Commissioner Balashay, who's been corresponding with me, as well as Mr. Webb for being here tonight. I think there's a lot of good dialogue going on. You've kind of seen the worst case scenario numbers of where we are. Hopefully we can improve upon those as we come to a final resolution, as we look to do option 3, and I think that's where we stand right now. We still have some work to do. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think the time that we have to figure things out and maybe find some additional funding and other things is a good option to wait for a little bit. But if everything comes together, when do you think you would actually start in reality?
With the option 3, we're going to need to turn the right-of-way of the roadway.
That's just an estimate. I mean, 4 months away, 6 months away, when would
4 to 6 months.
In the worst case, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, assuming that we only have one small, we have a couple of easement issues we'd have to resolve. There's only one tiny strip of ownership issue on 40th. Everything else the county owns there. They own Sunset, so that would be relatively, as long as that property owner goes along, that would be, that should delay things terribly long. So I would think, yeah, 4 to 6 months, maybe sooner, but I think it's conservative.
Well, I wanted the residents to know, because I don't want you to leave here tonight thinking if we voted for 3, we're starting next week. We still have some dialogue and some things to go through, and certainly the county's involvement is critical to the process. So we're going to work it, we're going to move forward, and I would assume we're going to move forward once we have a vote. And we'll keep you informed, and hopefully we can improve upon those numbers. If not, you know where we stand today and what might happen in the future, okay? Thank you for all coming tonight. I really appreciate you being here and your patience. So I'll take, since, any more discussion? Sorry on this? All right, I'll bring it back up for a motion.
Move Resolution 26, 2014, using option 3.
Second.
Got a motion, 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Let's move on to Ordinance 6, 2014. Will the clerk read the title?
Ordinance 6, 2014, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 26 elections at Section 26-8 of Michigan referendum by repealing subsection G and readopting the same as revised in accordance with Section 163.39 Florida statutes, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 26 election shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a complex clause, a severability clause, and ability to codify, providing an effective date for other purposes.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna,
Yeah, go ahead. You're.
I'm gonna open the public hearing, but, did you have a comment on something?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think we need a presentation. This just puts us in compliance with the law, so if there's no public comments.
I do have a public comment, but I would like to defer to the attorney for any comments.
Yeah, this is, we're just following council's direction. It's changing our percentage from 15 to 10, so it complies with 166.03.14 statutes. That's it.
Any questions for the city attorney? I have one card, Irish Idle.
Irish Idle, 1029 Santa Oaks. Good evening, council. It's been a long evening. First, congratulations to council members Tinsley and Javelin on your hard-fought election, and also to the mayor and vice mayor on your appointment. I'm asking you to approve Ordinance 6, 2014 to reduce the number of petitions required, not because of the lawsuit, but because it's the right thing to do for responsive and representative government. When you think about it, we've been asking people to get 15% of the registered voters from a general election, when very few of you have ever gotten 15% of the registered voters to vote for you unless you were in a general election. So we've created a bar that is unreasonable for anyone to obtain. And with the 10%, it's still a high bar to meet. People have to pay for the petitions, they have to pay for the petitions to be processed. And if there's something out there that 10% of the registered voters in the city are interested in putting on the ballot, then that's something that deserves to go on the ballot. So again, I know you're geared this way, but it was more in response to statutes and a lawsuit, and I think you should be doing it because it's also the right thing to do. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak for or against this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion or a vote.
Yes, this puts us in compliance with state law. I move Resolution 8, 2014 on first reading.
I have a motion and second on Ordinance 6, 2014. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Put these things on one.
Next, any resolutions, no items for council action? Do we want to start with the boards first, or are we going to do the charter review?
Charter review first. Okay, put the board second.
Okay.
I mean, I asked for this, so I guess I'll open up the discussion.
Okay.
As we all well know, a few years back, we tried to amend our charter, basically redo it with a whole new charter. And that went out to the vote of the citizens, and that failed. My reason, my feeling it failed was because they weren't part of the process early on. Now we just, as we all know, there is a term limit petition being circulated. We just went through an election where term limits were an issue. Term limits are a part, but that's not the whole issue. Our charter needs to be looked at, and it needs to be amended, and it needs to be done by a group that involves the citizens. That's the only way it's going to pass on an election, because that's the only way it'll be trusted. My feeling is we should appoint a charter review committee of 5, let's say, I thought of all the numbers could be different. Let's say a 5-member or a 7-member charter review committee, making sure that 5 are residents of the city and 2 maybe have experience in government and so forth. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for 5 or 7 people, or how many people, basically the same way you would select a jury. I don't want anybody that's opposed to term limits. I don't want anybody that's it's 4 term limits, I just want someone that wants the best government for the city of Palm Beach Gardens. That to me is the important thing. And I want them to go out to the residents, I want them to have, public meetings with the residents. I don't want to be involved, I don't think the city council should be involved, this is their city, that's what we should be doing. And to me, term limits are only a small part of the issue. We had the last time we discussed this, we had where the city manager had to live, and we wanted to take it out. The council, we had discussions, because again, if there was a good person that lived in Jupiter, and that person, we didn't want to have to make them move and pay the thing. The residents didn't feel that way. Well, I don't know whether they didn't feel that way because they didn't trust us, or they didn't feel that way because they didn't examine the issue. But I just believe that it wasn't out in the public, and again, there are extenuating circumstances that you might want to do that. But it's not up to me. I've always said, I work for the charter. That's the constitution of the city, and that's the one I work for. And I want it to be made up and done and looked at. This charter needs to be looked at. It's old. I don't know whether districts should be involved in the city, whether we should have direct election of mayor. To me, the city is almost done being built out. The only potential growth is going to come from west, which we've had plenty of discussions and our residents' feelings and so forth. So I would like to get this really, whether it takes a year or two, but be done the right way and look at every issue in the charter and involve our residents. That maybe they have a monthly meeting and or maybe hire a professional to help guide them, because I don't know that I want to have any staff members involved, because again, we get all into that trust issue. And that's something I want to try and avoid. This charter has to be done, as we all know. I mean, our attorney sat here the last time and told us how our charter doesn't comply to state laws and so forth. So it needs to be done. That's all. I'm throwing it out. I don't know if everybody agrees with that and so forth. And all I'm saying now is that if you agree that you want to look at it, I don't think we should be deciding tonight how we're going to do it, how many people should be on it, how we should, all I'm saying is it's something that we want to look at. I don't think this is something that we should be doing tonight, finalizing, but I also think it shouldn't be finalized 6 months from now. It should be done in the next 30 to 60 days.
I think you're right on this, except my one concern is, how do you pick the members of the charter committee?
Well,
we have to do something, because you have ideas, well, we'll go through, let me say my piece here, and then we'll go through your ideas. I'm almost willing that everybody applies, and we'll put them all in a hat, because I don't want it to be a political appointment. And that's what I'm afraid of. And, I think we'd all try and be as unpolitical as we could, but there's no way that, we all have our biases on who we're going to want to appoint. So that's my big concern, is how do we appoint this?
That is a concern. I don't want to pick people out of a hat, because I want to have qualified people. I want to see their resume. You know what I mean? I want them to make an application for it. This thing is important. And some cities, they even have a vote for people vote for a charter review, but I don't want to see that. I just think we need to have qualified people, and I trust the council. And if we can't come to an agreement on how we're going to do it, then one person selects one, and then maybe.
I don't want to do it.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't have a solution to how we're doing it. I know who I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the best qualified person, and I don't even know that. And I probably would rather not even know. What?
I can't do that because that would be Penny.
She's got a conflict, so. But anyway.
If you wouldn't have brought this up, I would have brought it up as well, because it's something that's obviously, Eric and I just came out of a election cycle, and it's been on everybody's mind. We were asked that question in every single meet and greet about our charter change. At the debate that I was in, we were asked about that as well. I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying as well. The last charter, it did not pass because of many reasons, I think. And one of them is because there were so many changes in the one question. And it's very hard to put all of those changes and modifications to our charter in a 15-word description, or not description, 15-word heading and then a 75-word description. It was too much in one question, is one of the reasons. I think maybe trust was another reason, maybe the charter committee, although I think our intentions were very good because we had so many legalities and conflicts in our charter, who better to point those out than an attorney? But I think that we've learned from the past, and that was a good lesson. So we need to move forward. I like the idea of a charter committee. I feel that, and I went back and forth on how to do it because there are probably 100 ways that we can do this. But I think we need, with the committee, whoever that is, needs to have a liaison, Max or somebody else that knows the history, that knows what we've done in the past, that has the knowledge of what's wrong with our charter, all of the inconsistencies and legalities that we need to correct. I agree with you with the city manager thing. I think that it's silly to have that in a charter. That should be in an employment contract. And I don't think that people understood because it was buried in a ton of other changes, and it's hard to describe and put on a ballot. However, if there are workshops and if there's a committee, there's more chances to educate the public on these items. So we maybe need to narrow the changes down to 5 changes or 3 changes, whatever the case may be, and the most important ones the committee will decide, and those are the ones that are changed now. We can do it in baby steps. We can always go back and change it again in another election cycle, but at least get the most important things that we really need to change done in this cycle. We can't even, right now, we're not abiding by our charter because we can't pay bills electronically. How crazy is that? And because our charter says we have to write paper checks, and we're in a new age, and we need to make sure we change these things. So one of the ideas that my first, of course, idea was to, you said pick out of a hat, was to come up with criteria of 5 members, and then have somebody from a gated community, somebody from a non-gated community, somebody that was a chamber member, somebody at large. And then I said, why don't we just have 5 people that, and whether it's done through a resume, it's a very good idea, I think, because we can see what they bring to the table. The council selects those 5 people from the resumes that are submitted, and then 2 people, so it would be a 7-committee, and obviously not decided now, but a 7-committee charter committee, and the 2, you have the chamber possibly elect 1 person, nominate 1 person, and then you have the NCNC, the North County Neighborhood Coalition, elect 1 person for that committee, possibly. That's an idea, but just how 2 other organizations nominate those 2. So it's the council and then 2 others.
And again, the last time we looked at this, I had gotten a couple where, this goes back years, and I was getting resumes from people from other cities that had experience. And that's why I'm saying I want to have a 7-member committee, 5 members from the city and 2 outside the city if they're qualified. You know what I'm saying? If they're,
the chamber might recommend somebody that's very, very qualified, but not from the
and
actual
that's fine.
city.
As long as they're qualified and qualified in government administrator, that's the most important thing. Because they have to be. It's like with the residents here. You always talk to them, and they want term limits. At the same time, they're saying they want term limits. They're saying the staff runs the city, and they want the staff is doing. And shorter experienced council members lead to stronger staff members. Okay, that's just the way it works. But there's a balance there. You know what I mean? There's a balance, and that's really what. And not to mention the city is not growing like it was. It's basically a mature city, But and there's reasons why you should have people like me and Eric here, even though those people think we're going to hear too long. But you have a bus stop in your community that if it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be there. The school district wouldn't be going there because. Well, yeah, you let the ship, but we remember.
You put it there.
We remember that the county school board committee.
Absolutely.
And that's just,
I've learned a lot from the history on this council, and when we talk about term limits, It's something that our charter committee needs to decide is what is reasonable, because what's out there right now, in my opinion, is not reasonable. I support term limits, but I do not support what is out there because it is not reasonable. And like, for the reasons that you're saying. You need to have some history and also for all the other
You know, before we go into those things, I mean, that's for the charter review committee to decide.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Marcy, the one thing I was a little concerned that you said, and maybe I misunderstood you, is we can't do babysit. We do a charter review committee, they have to be open up to the entire charter.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, but what's on the ballot?
It's their thing.
It's their thing, it's not ours. As a matter of fact, once we make the appointments, and I wish I could figure out as unbiased and objective way of making appointments as possible. That's what my real concern is. I understand with groups, but then we're picking the PGA Corridor Association. Do they get Palm Beach State? You know, and then which groups are we picking from?
I don't want any groups. I want people.
Yeah.
To me, and the further away they are from everything, to me, the better. Because I don't want, it's like a jury, you know, it's like I want them to sit down, I want them to listen to the residents. These guys need to speak.
Some history, okay, a little bit more history. I mean, we remember some things that went on here many years ago. We did have a charter review committee. Do you remember it?
We had a few of them.
We had one. When I was mayor, I remember we did one.
Two, I know that.
Well, maybe we did, but I remember the one, and Jimmy Elias was on it. We had two? Okay, well, I don't want to do, but I have to refresh my memory. Really?
96, 03, 05.
03, I remember 03.
96, 03, 05.
And what came out of those charter review committees was not very much. They recommended very little changes. In fact, with the one that I remember, the recommendation was not to change anything. Right? You were on it. Okay. I'm referring to Joni, if anybody.
No, I wasn't on it, but I observed it.
You observed it. Okay. So we need a different approach, I think. And I don't think we found it yet. But I do agree we need to have a charter review committee, and we need to have a different approach from what we've done in the past, so that we don't have the same result. I mean, and I understand the last time we went out to change the charter, it looked as if we were making changes that the public necessarily didn't want, so it was being attacked. You can always attack something. It's very easy to do. Once you start picking things apart, you can make it look as if you're doing something wrong when you're really not. Okay? So we do need a very impartial group. And I don't know, going to our residents, picking one from column A, one from column B, one, different gated communities. I don't know if we're gonna get there. I'm just thinking completely off the top of my head, so don't hold me to this. But if we got a professional organization, maybe even a panel of ex-judges or people who are very well respected in the community. And I don't know who that is. I really don't know. But if we found a group of 5 or 7 people that had that kind of air about them, no baggage kind of thing, maybe that's what we need to be looking for. And I don't have a suggestion as to where that comes from.
That's why I said we're not going to solve it.
We're not going to solve it tonight, but I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm glad you brought it up as a discussion item, because I think it's something that needs to happen. I mean, our city attorney, Marcy brought up the electronic. We can't even pay bills in an efficient manner because of our charter.
That's why we won the award 19 years in a row.
Yeah, right.
Look at every check that we write.
We have a computer here?
Yeah, you remember, Joe, we used to talk about 286 and 386?
Well, I mean, I've never really been a fan of the charter committee. But Joe, you mentioned something tonight that kind of struck me, that an independent moderator who would run the committee and maybe would make the decisions to pick the members of that committee. This has got to be totally away from us at any cost. And an independent moderator source, picking a 5 to 7 member committee seems like something I would want to see. Max could certainly be a liaison, talking about the issues of the city to the moderator, who would at that point pick up and run with it and get those members to talk about those issues. Again, I think you're 2 years away from anything happening, because if you're going to put this on a ballot, you want to put it on a big ballot, and that's the presidential election in November 16, correct? There's nothing next year.
No, I the city election in 2 years.
What's the matter with the city?
Well, I think you've always had issues with city elections.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something. Here's my problem with the 2016 election. By the time they get to our charter issues, okay, I'll tell you what, if I can write the charter issue, I can tell you whether they're going to pass or fail from the beginning. Because you're at the end of a ballot, presidential, plus everybody else's resolutions. I mean, my target would be the 2016 city election.
So it'll be March of 16.
March of 16.
Would be the target. Okay. So that's a good time frame that we need to work off of.
And they need to build the support for it too within that time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You've got essentially 2 years to do that.
I always believe that the voter that spends the time to vote, I may disagree with Iris on this, but that you want more voters. I want the voters that care and to tell, not the ones that are down and just check something off because they got to get through the ballot. I mean, and the people that are going to vote in the city election are the people that care about it. And I will tell you, if you stimulate the voting public, you saw that in this election. The turnout was the highest it's ever been in a city election. And if the Charter Review Committee does its job and people get involved, you'll have the same thing.
Well, I get concerned when you talk about the 2016 election. That means that there are 2 people will be running, and it will become a political issue.
It will.
And I worry about that.
Not if it's not our issue. It's not a political issue.
Well, but candidates are going to take a position
But it's not against us. It's not our position. It's an independent charter review committee.
I know it's not against us. I'm not
Well,
talking about.
I'm not talking about all night, but I'm just trying to throw out dates for what we'd be sensitive to. So.
You know what, I actually think that the primary might be a good date, the August primary of 2016.
Many of our residents aren't here.
I just worry about it becoming a campaign issue, and it getting.
Let me just say this. Every candidate that's running in that election, when they're asked the question about the charter, they should not be taking a position for or against.
You tell that to the candidate who's not going to use it as a wedge issue to try and enhance their campaign.
I think if you do the charter review thing the right way, remember, if an incumbent is running, it's not his charter review.
No,
It's not his issue. Okay, let's look at it, come back next meeting.
Fine, let's talk about it again, but these are good, important, issues, right?
Let's just look at the numbers. In 2012, when it went to the ballot in November, the charter failed by 500 votes.
Yeah.
And we probably did a poor job presenting that to the residents. Out of 22,000 voters, it was a 500 vote difference. So I don't know why we're getting scared by a presidential election. I think the more people involved in this, the better. We don't make it a council election or a mandate. And we have a lot of time to put this together and make sure we're doing all the right things, all the right issues. But how we come about doing a committee with a moderator or something like that, we need to talk about some more. But I think from a time perspective, this is not happening next week either.
Well, maybe we need to, choose someone who's above the fray, who will choose the people who are on that committee. Something like that.
It's an independent moderator, I think. Yeah, I agree with Joe. Joe said it, and I wasn't sold on this, Joe, until you said that. And I think that makes perfect sense in this equation. So,
The farther we can be away from it,
we shouldn't have any involvement at all. Period.
Because I am already, and I'm sure all of you are getting emails, phone calls from people who say, I want to be on the charter review committee. Well, what does that say?
Well, no.
It's politicized, and I don't want to keep it out of the box.
But it submitted applications to a moderator who could pick the committee, and we have nothing to do with it. And I think that could be a fair process to start.
Somebody who is above reproach
the only problem is finding it.
Well,
I think it's a good idea.
Oh, I agree, I think the idea is great, I agree with Bert and her.
And you don't think that this can happen in a year when nobody is,
the next year is no big elections. And what's the criticism going to be? You're doing it in an off-year election when nobody's going to vote. I ain't going through that.
right?
I want to do it, if it's presidential election, we get 25,000 people out like 2012. I think that justifies the case that we're going to make the right issues, have the right discussions, the moderators going to do their job, the committee will do their job, and then it goes back on the ballot.
There's a group, I think they're out of Miami, called the Good Government Initiative. That might be a group that we could look at.
The door's open.
There are institutes that do, good government institutes that do these things.
Or maybe there's somebody at Palm Beach State
Yeah.
College.
One of the
Yeah,
colleges.
that's a good point too. Okay, I think we've beat this for a while, so, any other comments on this? Okay,
We're gonna do these.
thank you. Next up is item B, is the external board assignments.
I say we just keep doing this.
Well, the only thing I have in here is the, hold on, the Palm Beach Workforce Alliance
Yeah, you're
Consortium.
doing that now.
That's me now, so David, can you be the alternate, is that okay?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, but I've gone the last couple of
They want the mayor on that one.
Okay, so Palm Beach Workforce Alliance Consortium will be me as the appointee, and David will be the alternate. And then everything else is the same, is that correct? Okay. And then item C is the internal boards. Any changes on that? Eric with Hearts, Marcy with Recreation, no appointment for PZAP, and then me still with the budget oversight.
That's good.
Joe, David, do you want to?
I wanna,
We're going to root you on.
You've done such a great job.
I think I have enough external boards to keep me busy.
Remember, that was my board, I said that when we went up.
You want to come back? I mean, Alan's just begging for a change.
yeah, really.
You're the guy, you're the mayor, you've done such a great job with it.
All right, Alan, you're stuck with me another year. Sorry, buddy.
Okay.
All right, so we have in the internal, the next order of boards, motion, please, with the changes.
To keep the external board with the one change, one articulated. Dave's the alternate for the
Palm Beach
Workforce Alliance, and the internal boards keep the same.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. City attorney report?
Yes.
Nothing?
There is one thing, though, I think that there was a major decision made in some place called, Trila did talk about, what was it, Point to something or the other, where they had decided, let me see if I can explain the case. The case was that council members had met with the developer. The developer said, felt like they had gotten tacit approval in the individual meetings. Additional information was brought up at the council meeting, and the council voted them down. The developer sued the council because they said that they went through a major expense because they thought they were going to get approved. And I believe that was reversed by a higher court so that the council was allowed to vote that. When we have meetings with developers and we tell them something, and we should tell them that we're going to approve it, but if we do that, that is not a guarantee of approval.
Why I never tell them that.
Yeah, I just
tell
think
them, I'll tell them it looks good to me, but I don't have the benefit of hearing the rest of my council members that may have thought of something I didn't think of.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But there is, the courts ruled that there is no guarantee in individual meetings. That's the way you're going to go. So it was something that was interesting.
And since we're talking so much, I just wanted to bring one item back up, just for clarification. Are we waiting now for the camera question until the survey? I just want to get clarification so we know what's going on. Because it was my understanding that we were pursuing the information gathering for web streaming and for live. I just want clarification from the council as to, are we waiting now for the survey, or are we just pursuing that?
I think that was precipitated by Ron's bringing up this survey.
Right.
Someone said, I don't know who, why don't we put that on the survey?
Correct.
We don't have to.
No, I know.
We can make a decision on our own.
I don't want to go backwards, but I guess when it comes to the actual camera.
When is the survey going to be?
It's
No, that means the next
60 days.
60 days? So we have a little time, don't we? I mean, you could add it to it, but that doesn't obligate us necessarily to do one way or the other. We still have to.
Right, and I guess should we, and maybe we should anyway, is just gather information as to, I know we were asking questions, and there was probably a ton of questions regarding if it's live or streaming, do we have to retain all of this video storage and data for public records requests?
That's
And that was a question, so I don't know if that's,
we do.
Yeah.
we do.
But, you know, you can store that electronically. It's not going to take too much storage space. Yeah, the box thing. I think we should pursue, you know, some type of video streaming.
I do too.
You know, I think that maybe we should ask staff for some options on cost of number of cameras
Because, you know
and
what?
things like that, or see if we have to pay Steve or something.
This is such a good-looking group. We need to get it out of them.
Don't put it.
We have done that. We've provided information to you previously. You've pretty much eliminated the television process because of the expense. We talked to you about webcasting. We talked to you about video on demand. And there are numerous ways to do that. The webcasting live, the startup cost, depending on how much equipment you buy, could be somewhere between $13,000 and $25,000. The estimated annual expense could be anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000. If you went to VOD, the video on demand, the startup cost is going to be about the same as the other one, but the ongoing annual expense could be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. So the least expensive is to go on video demand, but it's not live. It would go on like the next day, as does our audio. It goes on the next day, and anyone could watch it anytime they wanted to. So it's a matter of choice, or we can.
If you went with the next day service,
Video on demand.
you can always upgrade to, with the same equipment, I would guess,
So
to
live
live
stream.
streaming, is that possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Additional equipment.
But we could do that.
Additional cost, you could upgrade.
But you could upgrade with the camera that might
If you want to experiment with VOD to begin with, to see how that works,
I
and
think we should.
I think we should do that. Matter of fact, we need a motion. I'd make a motion that we go ahead and provide video on demand.
Second. Are you listening, Palm Beach Post? Second. Right.
Motion 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
But I still want it on the survey, because if people want to have it
Yeah,
live,
absolutely.
if they want it live, then we do the upgrade. So don't take it off the survey,
Keep it on the
please.
survey.
The other thing is, once we do the video on demand, we can actually see the number of hits that we get.
Yeah, and Eric, what would be the time frame to set it up? Video on demand?
It depends. I mean, I can contact a cameraman and
we have options, and we'll look into those options and see if we can get it expedited as quickly as possible. We'll do that.
I'd like to get Steve out of here by the summer. So,
He's doing a fine job.
then go watch it at home.
And that's another question. I don't know why you want to go pay for this when we got someone doing it for free.
We're just trying to get a better quality. So, all right. Thank you. Anything else to discuss before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Good night, everybody. Thank you.